Hi, this is Joe again with another review. For the sake of this video, I'm discussing the 2018 film Solo: A Star Wars Story. And as I know, probably everybody who's saw the movie probably done a review of it already. But it took me 2 years to finally watch this stupid thing because, frankly, it wasn't that interesting in it. Because it's not. I mean, ever since Disney bought the rights to Star Wars from George Lucas, they decided to not only make a new trilogy, which I reviewed all those movies on, in terms of episodes 7, 8, and 9. So, after the success of The Force Awakens, and I think it was like 2015 when that movie came out, Disney decided to do movies that fill in the gaps, from the Star Wars universe. And of course, the first one was the Rogue One movie, which I previously reviewed, so check that out. And of course, the next one, that Rogue One was fairly successful, in the box office take. So they decided, okay, since that one's successful, let's do another one. And there were many talks of, okay, which story do we do next? That's outside the main movie series. And of course, they already had episodes 8 and 9. I think they were already filming 8, and they were about to plan to do episode 9. And so, okay, let's do another film. And they said, oh, let's do the background story of some of the characters. And they're like, okay, let's do Han Solo. Somebody mentioned Han Solo and said, oh, let's do the background story on him, because you never really knew Han Solo's backstory. You knew, of course, the main characters, like Obi-Wan Kenobi, of course, Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker. You kind of knew the backstories a little bit because of the prequels. As many people like to crap on the prequels, myself included. At least they give you the backstory on how Anakin Skywalker became Darth Vader and stuff, and how Obi-Wan became, how Anakin became, Obi-Wan's apprentice and all that stuff. So, since they were mildly, of course, successful as people panned the prequels, it was successful enough that people were interested in more of the backstory and filling in the gaps between the prequel trilogy and, of course, the original trilogy. So they said, oh, let's do a movie about Han Solo, and how Solo became Han Solo, and how he got involved with Jabba the Hutt, how he got involved with, how he became friends with Chewie, how he became friends with Lando, how he ended up getting them in the Falcon from Lando, and how Han Solo ended up getting into smuggling. And it's like, it's like okay, but to find that out, but it's like totally and completely unnecessary, in my opinion. And that's what a lot of critics felt at the time, because it was like a totally unnecessary movie in the Star Wars universe to know the backstory of Han Solo. I mean, that was one of the special things about the original Star Wars trilogy, and that is, you don't know the full background of these characters, and because when the original trilogy came out, it was in the middle of the series. I mean, the idea that George Lucas had, he did have originally 9 movies in mind, but he decided, with the money that he had, and decided to forget all the political stuff that you saw in the prequels. That's what a lot of people complain about the prequels, at least some of it anyway, was all the political stuff in the prequels. So, by doing the original trilogy, or episodes 4, 5, and 6 first, at least it cut out pretty much all the political stuff, or the Senate stuff. So, that's why the Star Wars movies were successful as they were, because they cut out all the political crap. Because don't forget, George Lucas wrote this series during Watergate. So they had a political turmoil in the United States at that time. So that's why he wrote all the political stuff because of what was going on in the United States. So, and that's making my screen a little bit darker here. So what happened was, they didn't really do the backstories of these characters, like Darth Vader or Obi-Wan Kenobi and all that stuff. So when he went back and did that, actually, of course, the dialogue stuff. So when Disney bought over the rights, they said, "Oh, let's do the backstory on some of the more popular characters in the Star Wars universe, like Han Solo or Boba Fett." Because more people like Han Solo than Luke Skywalker. I haven't like both characters, but they wanted to say, "Oh, how Han Solo became friends with Chewie, how he got the Millennium Falcon and stuff," and they do go into it in this movie. And unfortunately, I think because I felt that those particular scenes were a little bit rushed, and they spent so much time on the backstabbing stuff with the way the conditions were with the smuggling stuff. And I think that's part of the reason why this movie did not quite do so well as people expected, because you're not getting Harrison Ford as Han Solo or Peter Mayhew playing Chewbacca, because he had another actor. Because I think Peter Mayhew either had passed away or about to pass away when this movie came out. So you didn't have Peter Mayhew, who was originally in the Chewbacca suit. You had another actor. I think it was like the third actor, second different actor who was, or I think it was like the second or third different person to play Chewbacca. The second person after Peter Mayhew retired from the part, because he played the part in episode 3 through 7 in the series. So he played him like 5 times, and then after the first time he stopped playing the character because I think he physically could not do it anymore. So he had someone else. They had hired someone else to play Chewbacca, be in the suit, and for the episode 8 and 9. Plus, of course, this movie. So you had different characters. I know I'm jumping around all over the place and I'm describing the movie that much, because there's really not much to say about this movie. If anything was quite disappointing. I mean, it was good for what it is. I won't be ashamed or embarrassed to watch this movie again. But the problem is you're getting like young Han Solo, and everybody trying to do and you did have Lando in the movie. You had this annoying droid who was Lando's sidekick. You had annoying characters, and you did have annoying characters, and it felt like it was like a bit rushed in certain sequences. Especially how Lando knew Han, and how they met and during a card game, and how eventually they grew into a friendship, which you eventually saw in Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi films, and of course they brought Lando back for The Rise of Skywalker, which unfortunately I don't think they really went into that much detail when review Rise of Skywalker, but with Lando asking Chewie what happened with Han and with Han and all that stuff. At least they had that, because it would be a rehash of Luke asking Chewie what happened to Han in The Last Jedi. So I guess they didn't want to do that again. But they should have had that scene in Rise of Skywalker with Chewie and Lando, and finding out what they bummed out this. It had no reference to Lando saying they were sorry his friend died, or mourning Han and stuff like that. It didn't have that that scene in there. And it would have been cool to see that. But in this movie you saw the formation of the friendship and stuff, and how Han won the Millennium Falcon in a card game. That's how he got it from, and that's why he had that line in Empire Strikes Back. Hey, I won a fair and square, and they brought up the fair and square line in that film. So in this film in Solo, but many people thought it would be a better film because Ron Howard directed this movie. He was not the original director for this film. I forgot who the original guy was, but I think he wasn't. I forgot who the original director was. I think that director wasn't available, or was directing episode 8, not episode 8, episode 9 of no, J.J. Abrams came back for episode 9, but for some reason they got the original director for Solo was pulled out, and they got Ron Howard to direct it. Okay, great, you had Oscar winning director to direct this movie. So I figured we brought a little bit more higher esteem for Solo, but unfortunately the thing fell completely flat. not only in the box office, but it was such a disappointing comeback for the movie. Then it's because critics kind of came a panda. Most people. I don't know about the critics here on YouTube or other movie critics, if they also panicked. They haven't really watched those reviews, but most people think Panda movie didn't think it was not that good. I thought it was, okay. It's watchable. It's enjoyable. First time watching it, I figured it's okay. It reminds me a lot of Rogue One, so it has that type of feel for me. And if you watch it once, you figure, this movie's totally unnecessary. And then if you watch it multiple times, like I had already with Rogue One, if you watch it multiple times, you seem to, you grow, you're enjoying the movie the more times you watch it. Because you see the problems with Solo, as you did with Rogue One, it says you know where the story is going to go at the end of the movie. Kind of like with the prequels, the Star Wars prequels, you know where the story is eventually going to go. And when you get there, it's not a surprise. That's what I felt about this movie. It's kind of interesting how Han got into smuggling. And originally, Chewie was fine with Han because he was hungry, and they threw Solo. Han got captured by these other smugglers and threw him into the pit, this mud pit, and the creature down there was Chewie. And you don't know how Chewie got there. They never even mentioned how Chewie got there from Kashyyyk, because you saw Chewie in Episode 3 with the Bell and his home planet with Yoda, and you never saw how Chewie got from that moment, in Episode 3, to where he ended up being, where he meets Han. You never really saw Chewie's backstory in this movie as much as you did Han's backstory. And of course, Han also, I should mention, had an ex-girlfriend who he meets up later on, and who does help Han out with the smuggling thing that he wanted to do for this fuel thing. And what happened was, she ends up talking to Darth Maul at the end of this movie. I mean, that's a big surprise in this movie. You see Darth Maul, who was killed off in the end of Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. So it's like, how in the hell could we live if he was killed off by Obi-Wan in Episode 1? Well, I guess it's the same principle as when they brought back Palpatine, or Emperor Palpatine for the Rise of Skywalker. And saying that they somehow manipulated life so he would never die. Or a Sith Lord could be so powerful, like Darth Plagueis was in the novels, that he could manipulate the midichlorians to create life, or to prevent or to prolong the death. And I think that's what happened. That's definitely what happened with Darth Maul, and it's definitely what happened with Palpatine. I mean, they explained that in Episode 3 to manipulate, life and death. Will save yourself from death. That's why I went Darth, and that was a surprise to me to see Darth Maul in here. It would be interesting to see the Emperor from Palpatine, because he was supposed to be alive already at this time. He wasn't thrown in the pit by Darth Vader yet, obviously. So it would be interesting to see if it was actually Palpatine or Darth Vader that they were, that Han's old girlfriend was talking to. That would have been interesting. But they decided to use Darth Maul, I think because of the series that's on Disney Plus, the Mandarin. I think that's why. They brought Darth Maul back, because he was going to be used in that series on Disney Plus. I think that's probably why they brought him back, because they were going to use him for that series. Even though I haven't seen the Mandarin series, so I can't comment review on. But for Han Solo, the guy who Han was working with was played by Woody Harrelson, I should mention. Han kills him in an old-style gunslinger shootout, and he decides to do what Woody Harrelson's character wanted to do, and that's work for this gangster in Tatooine. Of course, we all know who the gangster in Tatooine is: Jabba the Hutt. So they applied who was going to work for it. Said, oh, what could go wrong? And that was the last line of the movie where Han is trying to convince Chewie, oh, let's do what Woody Harrelson wanted to do and work for this gangster on Tatooine. What could go wrong? We all know what went wrong. That Jabba the Hutt captured him thanks to Boba Fett. Captures Han years later on Cloud City and froze him. In carbonate. The carbonate. But, it was kind of interesting because you know where the story's going to go. You know it had to end with Han about to start working or accepting or about to work for Jabba the Hutt. You know it had to end, with this movie, and that's where it ends. And I can't believe we spent almost 16 minutes talking about Solo, because like I said, there's not that much to talk about this movie. That's why I'm not, focusing on it that much, because it's not much to tell. I mean, it just tells Han Solo's backstory and how he became to work for Jabba the Hutt and how he got into smuggling and all that type of stuff. And it's okay, it's watchable, it's entertaining for what it was, but like I said earlier, totally unnecessary. Kind of like I had the same feeling watching Solo as they did with Rogue One. It's totally unnecessary. You don't really need to see how the Rebels got the plans of the Death Star. You don't really need to know that. But Disney decides to fill in its potholes, and like I said earlier, the back for this movie or the money they earned for this movie was so disappointing for Disney. They put in so much money to make this backstory of Han Solo, and they brought in Ron Howard to direct it, and it was so disappointing that they decided they were supposed to do a backstory with Obi-Wan Kenobi, how he became a Jedi Knight originally, how he decided to become Qui-Gon's apprentice, I guess. I think there's going to be another series on the streaming service on Disney Plus. Plus, you're also going to have they were supposed to do a movie of Boba Fett. Boba Fett's back. I think from the time when his father gets killed in episode 2, Attack of the Clones, till of course when he hooks up with Boba Fett. I think they're supposed to do a movie with him, but just Solo was so disappointing in the box office. Every time, right? Disney decided to cut it. And that's what they decided to do. So that's how disappointing Solo is, because, like I said a couple times already, you don't really need to know his backstory. You really don't. That's how I feel. It's like, what are you going to do next? Do a backstory on Yoda? That's going to be next. That's going to be probably their next idea too. To do a backstory, a movie on Yoda. I mean, or Princess Leia, or or Admiral Akbar or something. I mean, they're going to because Disney is going to milk this thing. But thankfully, they're toning it down quite a bit because of the low box office numbers for Solo. So that's my review of the movie Solo, A Star Wars Story. Please click on the video, please rate it. Please subscribe to my channel. Please forward this video on your Facebook pages. You can check out all my reviews and on my YouTube channel at RowdyC.com. That's all WDY. And that's C.com. That's all pages of Rowdy Reviewer. Christine Moore. Please check out all of his videos on this website. Thanks for watching. And catch you next time. And don't wear a mask. They don't work.